Brim, how are you today?
First and foremost, Trond, I want to say finally Brimstone has made it to the future of entertainment with you here on Futurized. Super psyched, super excited, waking up on a nice, delicious Wednesday morning, and I'm ready to go with you, brother. It's so good to be here.
You know, I am also ready. Look, Brim, you were a child actor. You decided you wanted to become a drummer. You're quite a musician, I understand, and wanted to be a rock star. You're one of the few people that I have been in touch with that actually then became a rock star. I understand you learned marketing to figure out how to get this done. We need to talk about this. You've done comics, massive sort of comic empire. You must be a hero to all comics nerds. And then you went into wrestling and then obviously into broad style entertainment, which is what we're going to talk about here today. And you're a bit of a celebrity in many, many circles. I think both outside comics and wrestling people are tuning into your energy and the stuff that you have to say. But there was this last thing, and then I'll shut up because I want you to tell me how wrong I was about your background. But you're also known as quite a compassionate guy, and you have all these causes that you're supporting. You have your own scholarship fund, I believe. We'll try to cover a bunch of this, but did I do you justice at all? Is this a little bit of your background?
It's a little bit. Yeah, no, it's good. What do you call it? The scholarship fund? Actually, we did away with after the first year of the after the roast. We did that specifically for the roast, and it was just a lot of work, and I couldn't keep up with doing my own. Therefore, I am involved with a tremendous amount of other charitable causes. You name it, I've done it, and for the most part, I do on the regular. I'm the celebrity spokesperson for the Stan Lee Foundation. I do the Arthritis Foundation. I do you name it, and I do it. Is pretty much what it comes down to. And I always felt the need, and I was taught by my mother at a young age that you always give back to the people that help get you to where you are, and help give back to the people who need more than you do. I grew up with nothing, and I built myself into what I am today. And, and I want other people to be able to eat. I want other people to be able to, not be in pain every day. And, especially in this new environment in the world, here we're talking about the future and future of entertainment. Who knows what the future is of this world with all the viruses and this, that, and the next thing that's happening. And we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like one thing that myself and my crew from the Grindhouse Radio did is that when the beginning of the pandemic, we found out that the food bank over here was completely dry. And we said, well, we got to do something about that. So, we put ourselves right up there. We and we did it nonchalantly. We didn't go to the press. We didn't do anything like that. We contacted the people locally, contacted our friends over at the local Walmart and said, we need to do something. We put together thousands of dollars of food for the families of the area, and filled the food bank. And that was not because we had to, not because we wanted the publicity for it, which other people did. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And all the only reason why I talk about it now to you and put this out into the ether is because I'd like to inspire other people to give back and do things, not because they have to, not because they want that publicity, but because it's the right thing to do. So,
Brim, you have been called a very wonderful thing, Renaissance man by a lot of people. And, even just going through your background, clearly you span a bunch of different fields that aren't easy to kind of imagine. So I was wondering, we're talking about your mother, did she see that in you? Is part of what you are reflecting here kind of, were there people, others in your background that sort of nudged you forward and said, Brim, you can do all these things? Or would you say there was an inner drive that got you here?
It's a little bit of everything. I mean, my mother, my father, and my parents were divorced. That's why my acting as a child kind of was cut short a little bit, because my parents were divorced, and that's a whole different story altogether. But everybody was always like, "Look, you could do whatever you want. You could be whatever you want to be as long as you work hard for it." My mother was trying to nourish that, when I was younger, and then as time went on, and I was started to do the music thing, and I was playing, and obviously being a drummer, I'm like the loudest instrument in the bunch. So she was like starting to regret saying, you could do whatever you want because it was loud. That I would always have the band practices at the house and so forth when I was younger. But, that being the case, my dad, again, was very supportive as well. But, he was always telling me, you need to make sure you have a fallback plan. You need to make sure that you you understand sales and marketing and blah, 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 blah. And that's what kind of guided me in that direction. And while I was doing the music thing, I mean, I really learned a lot because, we were going into it. We were young. I was fresh out of school. I was actually touring while I was in school, college. And what do you call it? The biggest thing was learning guerrilla marketing and negotiations and I was doing all that work. So for me, that really helped design future Brim. You know what I mean? That really gave me the nuts and bolts of what I needed. And funny enough, that wasn't my first foray into the industry. And it also wasn't my first business. What do you call it? Because I actually had my own business, which was which was actually in the adult novelty field when I was 17 going on 18. So I did that first and foremost, and it was a great learning experience for me. I went door to door building my own business. So it was a really cool thing. We won't talk too much about that, but what do you call it? That gave me a lot of the insight of where I needed to go and what I needed to do and really figure out like I could do whatever I want. My mom was right. I can do whatever I want as long as I just put my best foot forward and bust my hump. And I learned at an early age, you know what? Even if it doesn't work out, even if you fail, that failure, is a good thing. It's a positive. Failure is good. People like to make fun of people who don't come through with something if something doesn't work out or poke fun at or go, oh, you couldn't do this or you could. Guess what? Those failures they're the key to success. They give you the seeds to move that 10 feet forward. You know what I mean? They create the trees that give you the vines to swing right past other people. You know what I mean? If you really put your mind to it, you got to learn from those mistakes. So the people that fail and then they go, oh, this didn't work, and then they go on and do something completely different and want nothing to do with getting back up on the horse. Well, those people truly failed, and they didn't learn anything from it. And they're always going to be stuck in that rut. When you fail and then you pick yourself up and go, what went wrong? What did I do that caused this to go wrong? How can I make it better? Which direction will help me kind of take this and put it back onto the path to success? You know what I mean? That's where you're winning. You know what I mean?
But did you have a notable failure that has propelled you forward?
I've had plenty. I had a ton of them. Look, at the end of the day, first and foremost, in entertainment in general, there are plenty of times where you could get a role, you could wait on the role, you could be excited for the role, you could talk about the role, then all of a sudden, the role doesn't happen because either they decided this film or the TV show or the video game or whatever it is, they decided they're not doing it, or two, they recast it because they wound up going in a different direction, or three, you film it and everything's great and you're excited and all of a sudden the producer goes, and then he doesn't put it out, so there's so many things in terms of that alone. The first business, as I mentioned to you before, the reason why that failed is because my, and it would have still been going today. It was very successful at 17, 18. My partner was, he went to school, he went out to Penn State, and the product that we had was at his house, and his parents didn't think about it. They just took all our stuff and threw it out. So instead of calling me and saying, hey, come get the stuff, or, if you're going to continue, they just threw it out thinking that, it was a game. They didn't realize what was going on. Probably because of the reason, probably the reason for it is because they didn't know what we were doing. But it was, it was a fun little novelty item, and it did well. But that wasn't a huge failure. But the failure, it wasn't like I did something wrong. It was, there was nothing I could do. I couldn't go after the same suppliers that I was able to go after with him because he's the one that had the contact with the suppliers. And at that time I was young. I was about to go to college. I didn't, what am I going to do? I'm going to contact people in Malaysia, you know what I mean? For rubber products, you know what I mean? It was just not at that time. So I took it and I put it in my back pocket. I said, listen, it was a win for a while. I made, a really good chunk of cash doing my own thing. And I learned a lot. So even though, people might say, oh, well, it was no longer there. You failed. I won. I made money. I learned. I had a product out. I had it out in World Imports and Spencer's Gifts and, you know what I mean? And whole ton of adult shops. You know what I mean? So like for me, it was a win. There are other times, and throughout the course of my history where I've taken on the wrong person or trusted the wrong person, you know what I mean? And got in bed with somebody who eventually, you get into bed with the dog. Sometimes you get fleas, and, that's a big problem, and other people, when you're in the boat with somebody and, you're sitting and paddling along and someone else is drilling a hole in the back and letting the water in. So these are the types of failures that, yes, I figured it out. I go, all right, well, I learned from this issue. I'm never going to let that happen again. And I have studied, what do you do when you have a partner and you do this? What do you do when you have, and I went crazy teaching myself. And you know what? It knocked me back in one occasion. It knocked me back a year and change. But at the end of the day, I've grown bigger, better, broader, and a lot stronger from it. So you know what? It was a win.
Got it. So, Brim, if you think about entertainment, right, it kind of, I think the French word means to hold together. It's just related to storytelling, which it seems like you're really good at, but there's so many things and it's kind of like an eternal thing. It's been there since the beginning of time, right? From like we were hunting and gathering, people were telling stories around the bonfire, and then, through like Greek theater and more like mass audience around, gladiators and things and sort of competitions and stuff. And you seem to have kind of done it all in the modern times. You're a little bit of a modern gladiator, I guess, also. Have you ever thought, exactly, have you ever thought about it this way, that you're kind of carrying on this grand old tradition of kind of, it's among the oldest activities that entertain people, and you are carrying it on. Do you think about that legacy, or, when you are coming up with something new, either a new spin on something that you have already been doing within entertainment, or you're kind of branching out into something completely different, what is it that makes you go from like A to B and say, okay, and now I'm going to launch something new?
Well, first and foremost, the first part of that question, I've never thought of it that way, and I think that's a fantastic way of thinking. And I really like that way of thinking because it would never cross my mind, that this was what they did back in the days, before there was television and so forth. They sat around a campfire and they told stories, and and this is how history was made. So for me, I never thought about it like that, but I think that's a fantastic way, and I'd like to actually start thinking of it that way. To be completely blunt, I think that's fantastic. Anyway, moving forward in terms of what brings me from A to B or A to Z. Anything I'm doing in general, whether it's, entertainment, life, whatever it is, I always want to know what the next natural progression is. What's the next natural progression? And, and that's how I've, and now other things kind of, sprinkle in here and there, but, to give you like the main hubs of stuff in terms of my career, what do you call it? Just take it from the wrestling side because it's easier to explain from the wrestling side. So I spent X amount of years in pro wrestling. What are wrestlers? Wrestlers are these larger-than-life cartoon characters that are sitting in a ring, you know what I mean, wearing crazy clothes, doing crazy moves, beating each other up right in front of you, putting on a show, right? That's what professional wrestling is. That being said, what's the next natural progression? Well, technically these wrestlers are superheroes. Why not do a comic book? So I took my character, the Brimstone character, took the complete character, pulled it out of the wrestling ring, put it into a comic book. Got rid of the wrestling whatsoever and went with the history and the background of the gimmick of the character. That being said, now we have the comic book. The comic book was put out. The next natural progression of the comic, well, I wanted to have a kids book and a kids series. Why? Because I wanted the parents to, who were super psyched and they loved the comic, to be able to have their kids be super psyched and involved with the same characters that they can now vibe with, and they know who these characters are, and then builds up. So when they graduate from the kids' books, they know who they are in the comic books. So that was the next natural progression with that. While I was going back out on tour, because again, with wrestling, I was out and about, and all I saw was, inside of trains, planes, automobiles, hotels, and arenas and so forth. I said to my one of my people at the time, Eitan Wish, my director of operations, I said, look, if I'm going back out on the road, I got to support the comics and the kids' books. I don't want to just do, this anymore, like meaning the planes, trains, automobiles thing. I said, I want to be able to see the cities I'm going to. I want to enjoy them more. He goes, well, Brim, what do you want? What do you want to do? What more can you do? You're already, swamped. I go, well, I like to eat. He goes, yeah, we know that. I said, shut up, Eitan. That's not very nice of you. Then I said, well, and I like to talk. He goes, oh, we know that too, as you guys do. I said, shut up, Eitan. That's not very nice of you. And I said, well, why don't we do a series called Food Hound Tidbits? I said, we'll find like the coolest spots in the different areas that we're going to. And, whatever time of the day, before or after the convention, what do you call that? We're deciding at, we'll go and we'll do these things because we got to eat, So he's like, all right, we'll do it. And 3 seasons later, Food Hound Tidbits was a thing, and that was before, everybody was on YouTube and social media and so forth doing all the cooking stuff. I mean, that was before everything. We were kind of like a touring version of diners, drive-ins, and dives. You know what I mean? Except from the other side, we were doing it from the dining side, and then I would go back into the kitchen with everybody, and we'd do the whole thing, and we would take people from the the convention center, and the convention itself to the tabletop. You know what I mean? So we got to see what was going on at the con, then the convention. Then the coolest food places in that area. So we would go to 5-star restaurants and mom and pop hot dog shops, and it was always the coolest things ever. And what do you call it? So if you're doing a food series, what's the next natural progression of food? Put out a foodie product. So I did my sauces and seasonings. I did my coffee line. I did my candy line. Now you take all of that, and again, I'm just jumping around here. You take all that, and now I have the comic book, and I say, well, inside the comic, there's a bar and grill that all the guys go in the wastelands, and that's where they take their time away from what's going on, and their quote unquote jobs as border hounds. And in there, you see them, they sitting at a table, they're eating grindhouse burgers or sweet heat treat wings or eating grub munchies at the bar. All of these are actual real products that you can purchase in real life. So if you're a fan of the comic, you can purchase them in real life. Or if you're not a fan of the comic, you can still purchase them and enjoy the products because they're all quality products and they're all award winning. So everything is tied into each other. And if you noted, I said grindhouse burgers. Well, now what do? The Grindhouse Radio. So everything is tied together in one way, shape, or form. Then I have other products and things that come up, that I was able to tie in and do other stuff with, even my chocolate bar line. I'm the celebrity spokesperson for the Stan Lee Foundation. Stan was a friend of mine. He had the chocolate bars. The chocolate bars I wound up doing as Wasteland S'mores, and attached them into my comic book. You know what I mean? And that's, so everything's kind of tied together. I hope I'm making sense.
No, you're making a lot of sense. And it's just fascinating to me. One of the reasons I really was looking forward to having this chat is because, you can talk about the future of entertainment in many ways, but as some people are getting a little depressed that the machines are sort of taking over, it seems to me that the role of human ingenuity or creativity when it comes to branding and stuff, there could be streaming and digital concerts, but just back to my point, some of the stuff that you are engaged in and the kind of leaps you make every time here, they are somewhat more timeless, and you're tying it into experiences, right? Which is big in marketing. What, when you think about how you're going to evolve your brand, and how this decade has kind of started with a bang, I guess, with COVID and everything. But also, technology is moving really fast. What do you think the next generation kind of innovators, celebrities, and influencers, what are the things that they can bring to bear? I mean, is all of this just timeless, and you're sort of not worried about this kind of activity at all? Like you will simply find these product extensions, or you'll just reinvent yourself and use your creative talent in some way? Or do you think there's something fundamental going on here that entertainment will have to not just follow, but actually become radically different in this somewhat virtualized world that we're really entering in this decade?
It is even nowadays, it's a lot harder than it was back then. Even though people would think that it was easier now because you have more at your fingertips, it was harder. It's harder now to be seen and to be heard. And it's funny because, back when, celebrity meant something. Celebrity meant, this person worked hard. They did what they did. They, that when you heard of them because they really did stand the test of time. They really did go, all over the world and all over the country and make these appearances, and you saw them, and you saw them on television. It was like, oh my God, they're on TV, or you hear them on radio. Oh my God, it's radio. But now, as the future moves forward, you've got, it's easy, not easy, but radio. It's not just radio anymore. It's internet radio. It's podcasting. It's, it's, you name it, and it's there. Remember back when, I don't know how old you are, I might be dating myself here, but there was pirate radio, and it was before we had like internet and stuff. There was pirate radio that, they used to like jump on back of other people's airwaves and so forth. And that was like, the thing back then. Now, I mean, again, you can get onto and do anything. You go online and you could just start up a website or this or that. So there's so much out there now. Not that there wasn't before, because there was before. It was just harder to be seen and heard, or get your name out there because you had to find people. Now you could find the people, but it's so much easier to find these people where they're getting hundreds of thousands of different, things sent to them weekly on a daily. Think about social media. There's tons. You just go on and just scroll.
It's so hard to stand out, Brim, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's very,
extremely
very hard.
So you have to, the one thing that will always remain throughout all of time, I don't care what it is, where you are, how you're doing it, in entertainment, in business, the one thing that will never change is you still have to have a brand. You have to build a brand, and you have to have that brand, and you have to nurture that brand. That will never change. What will change and what will continue to change will be specifically how you're going to get that brand out there into the world and into the ether. That's the biggest, issue right now. People have you have a great show. We have a show. They have a show. Everybody has this and what. I have a new product. Whatever it is. Now you have to put that out into the ether and let people see it. And the fact is consumption, human consumption, they can only take so much, before they just are scrolling without giving a damn. You know what I mean? So you have, even now, I think it was originally like 15 seconds or something that you had to get somebody's attention originally, or at least in the last couple of years. Now it's like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. You have, the time of a swipe to get somebody's, interest.
Well, so what's your advice there? I mean, not everybody has, and I'm going to be wrong in saying this because your personality clearly is something that you've worked on. Like I'm sure you didn't show up like this at 5. Like you have a personality that you have discovered works also, but some of it might be natural, some of it is actually hard earned. Like you've worked on this to develop these ways of speaking that are fascinating. What do you have to bring, and what part of it can be learned, and what sort of part of it is just not there? Because production quality, yes, creativity perhaps, and some uniqueness, and then positioning yourself, and like you said, branding. But this live factor that you clearly have and that you have built on, and you are able to do these extensions, but people recognize it as something authentic and exciting because of you. How can others emanate that. Let's just take a case in point, like all of these authors out there. I had a bunch of them on my show. I am an author. It is really hard to stand out as an author these days because you know what? Everything is canceled. So podcast is actually the only kind of thing that's left. Even then, you can go on a gazillion of podcasts, but very few people sell many, many books. That's just, kind of from my, I mean, I'm not in wrestling, so it's not really easy for me to kind of figure out, whether it's really, really hard to be, it was really, really hard to operate as a wrestler or not. You tell me. But if you kind of use that broader categories and, comics, obviously, that's a writing profession and a visual profession. What makes people stand out? Because I've talked to some unsuccessful comic book writers as well, or certainly people that aren't as well known as you. What is it that people ultimately need to be able to do in order to sustain a very successful brand over time or build many like you have done?
One, you have to be unapologetically authentic. That's first and foremost. Two, you need some personality. You know what I mean? When you're going out into the world, yes, you might be the best writer on the planet, but if you can't speak the way you write, well, that's going to be a little bit of an issue. Because again, people have such short attention spans nowadays that, they want to be captured right at the moment. First thing I did when I came on here today, Trond, what did I do? Finally, Brimstone has made it. You know what I mean? Like, and I want to catch your attention. Why? Because if I don't catch your attention at the first few seconds of this show, nobody's going to care what I have to say afterwards. You know what I mean? So I could have the best book on the planet. If you're not interested in hearing about it, or you're not interested in reading it, and I'm boring you when I'm on here, well, guess what? There's no way you're going to read my book. There's no possible way whatsoever. So I think that being a little bit more animated, getting comfortable within your own skin, which is a very big thing, and a lot of people have a problem with that, but getting comfortable within your own skin and putting yourself out there with your best foot forwards and your mouth open wide. I feel that is going to be your best bet for anybody who's in entertainment, anybody who is a creative. Some people are just afraid to talk. Some people are afraid to get in front of people. That's the only way you're going to be seen. You got to bite, kick, scratch, and fight to be seen and heard nowadays,
Brim, do you think this has to do with personality? Because that would be a good excuse for people, you say, oh, I'm an introvert, I could never do this. Or is it trained? I mean, did you make a conscious decision? You're just going to kind of show off more of what you think you've got? Or do you think it was something innate that you would have been a sort of a rowdy, wild character, whether or not you actually ended up being famous?
It's all a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of everything, to be completely honest. When we were talking prior to me coming on, I was laid back. I was calm. We were talking. We were having a regular conversation. Of course, if I'm here and my voice inflection doesn't match what I'm talking about and gets you involved, then you're not going to be interested. You know what I mean? So yes, like to a certain extent, a lot of it was learned over the years, and I've emulated people that of course it's all me, but I've, wanted to emulate people that I respect and I admire, and people that have always been, true to, their brand, and over the years you find more people that, you go, wow, this guy is really good, or this one is really great. Like for me personally, and this might sound weird as all hell, one of the people that I've always tried to follow career-wise is Madonna. You want to know why? Because every 5 years or so, she comes out completely refurbished. She's still Madonna, but now she's just, kind of tweaking it to, to stay relevant. You know what I mean? She tweaks a little bit, but she's still Madonna. You know what I mean? And she was and Prince, before he died, did the same thing. But Madonna, all throughout this time, you know what I mean, has always done stuff to stay relevant. And that for me is something that I always pay attention to and have paid attention to. In terms of public speaking, it can be learned. It can be taught. Personality can be taught to a certain extent. You either have it or you don't. I mean, you know what I mean? But to a certain extent, you can be a little less than boring. You know what I mean? Like,
That's useful, right?
To be completely honest, and I'm not trying to be rude or put anybody down, because anybody could do anything that they put their hearts and their minds to. That's it. You put in the blood, sweat, and tears, it will work. Don't quit. Once you quit, you've given up all hope, and you should never stop trying to obtain your dreams. But that being said, again, there are people that have the best production whatsoever. Their production's the most amazing thing on the planet, but they can't put two words together, or they're boring as all sin. I can't stand seeing that sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm going, hey, there's so many people that have, worked hard on their craft to get better and to build themselves up, and now you're dealing with this. But that being said, they deserve the opportunity to shine as well. You know what I mean? So, and look, and I'm going to tell you this, with 40 years in the industry, I've gotten up and I've spoken in front of tens of thousands of people at a clip. I got up and spoke to 2 or 3 people at a clip. The people, when you're talking to 2 or 3 people at a clip, that's a lot more difficult than speaking to a whole ton of people. People, a lot of people go, oh no, how could that be? There's so many people. Yeah, because when you got 2 or 3 people, that's that these 3 people are paying full attention to every word you say, but and I still get butterflies. I go out and I do it and do my job, but I still get the butterflies. I'm human, you know what I mean? And like, okay, I got to work myself up. I got to go and I got to perform. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a magic to the fact that you are able to bring this energy. Even think about this situation, right? I mean, we're sitting in front of each other's cameras, far away from each other, and you're bringing that energy because of course there's people ultimately listening to this, but maybe not live. And that's hard. For
it's
sure.
Fun. Listen, when you got a person like you on the other end, it is seamless. It's easy. You know what I mean? If I'm sitting and talking to myself, it's a little more difficult. When I can work off your energy and you've got a nice, flow of how you do things, it's easy. You know what I mean? But you've gotta be in it to win it. And one of the biggest things for people, work on your voice inflection, work on bringing the energy level up. Now, also, if you're all the way down here, and I'm up here, it's not going to make any sense. But I can, if you're down here and I come up a little bit, now I'm talking a little, we could bring that level up a little bit more. And then I could go a little bit higher until eventually the person I'm dealing with is on a higher level. You know what I mean? So I'm elevating them. Or I could bring myself down to there, down here, down here. But I'd rather, let's elevate. Let's give a little more energy. Let's make things, exciting, because why listen to someone who's boring? We want to have a good time, right? So, that's what it is. And I hope I'm being helpful.
Brim, what are the things that ultimately matter to you? Because you're speaking as if you want to be relevant to people. You just said that, and you want to entertain, and there's something fundamental. I don't think everybody naturally thinks of themselves as entertainers. So there takes, that's a certain type of person who sees, I want to be able to entertain, or that is kind of my natural state. Mm-hmm. But what is it that matters to you? Why are you doing all these things? Right? Because you could at any point have sat down and said, yeah, this Brimstone thing was great. Yeah, I was a wrestler. Look at all my nice videos. I can bring it back to my mom and, my friends or significant other. And then I can count my money and I can, do what people do, like play golf or become a wrestling promoter. I don't know what you would have done if you weren't continuing. Why are you driving yourself so hard still? And having achieved so many dreams, I'm assuming, and perhaps things you never dreamt of, I'm curious, what are you proud of? What are you ashamed of? And what does matter to you now?
Well, first and foremost, for the whole beginning of that what you were saying in terms of why I do it because I'm here to leave a legacy, not just for myself, but for my family and for my family to be proud of. My wife, my 3 kids, when they have kids, my grandchildren, I want people to, look back and go, wow, he was part of my family, and, or that's my dad, and so forth. And I want to leave a legacy, and I want to leave, behind something for them to, say, be proud of, that there's nothing wrong with moms or dads going out and working 9 to 5s and hustling and, doing their thing for the kids. I wanted to do something different, and that's me, so I really went out there to continue to build a legacy, and that's in or out of a wrestling ring. I haven't wrestled in, years, it's been a long time. I think 2009 was the last time I stepped in a ring. So, at the end of the day, the fact is that's why I do it. I bust my hump. I work hard. And if I don't work hard, somebody else will do it. You know what I mean? If you're not doing it, somebody else is going to do it. So why shouldn't it be me? So I bust my hump to do what I need to do in order to bring home the bread and to make sure to keep building on the empire and building on the legacy that I want to leave. That being said, I forgot the second part of the question
Well,
was.
I was just curious, what are you ultimately the most proud or ashamed of that you kind of either dreamt of and have achieved, or things you still kind of want to achieve?
It might sound cheesy, but the best thing that I've ever created and the best thing that I've ever done are my children, and my family. My family is the thing I'm most proud of. What do you call it? And that's what having a successful marriage. You know what I mean? With my wife, we're going to be together 20 years in February coming this year. At the end of the day, can't that's my biggest accomplishment, especially being someone who's in and out of town a lot, on the road a lot of things going on a lot of the time, and being able to still be dad and be around for anything that's important, and spend time with my children. That's an accomplishment for me. Everything else is just gravy. You know what I mean? Everything else is just gravy. I If it all ended tomorrow, it would suck, but I'd be like, you know what? I did a lot. I did a good job, and I'm happy staying at home and relaxing with my wife and my kids. But it's not ending tomorrow. I've got a lot going on. I do like 4 different shows.
Yeah, what are some of
podcast
the
wise.
exciting things you've got lined up?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things. Some I can talk about in depth, some I can't. But right now, I do regularly. I'm one of the hosts of the Grindhouse Radio. Myself, Kim Dragna, and Tom Greer were the 3 main hosts for GHR. And we're on over 30 different networks, syndicated worldwide. We're doing tremendous things. We've won just since the beginning of this year. We've won about 8 new awards, which is fantastic. I mean, I can't complain. We have so much fun doing that. Along with Greer, I do Truly Inconsequential. We do that on Wednesdays live at 2 p.m. That's a little later today. I don't know when this comes out, but we record on a Wednesday. And then I do Within Brim Skin, which is like my rant show. And that comes out on Tuesdays. And I also do a show that's separate from the Grindhouse Radio network. I do a show with Dana Pereira, who does Trophy Wife Life. We do it. It's called the Dirty Little Secrets Club, which is a lot of fun. That's again, where I normally do pop culture and Brimstone bravado and all that garbage. What do you call it? We wind up on Dirty Little Secrets Club. We get a little naughty and have some fun there. Nothing crazy, but it's a lot of fun, and it's just something different, So we do that. Right now, I am in production for. We were in pre-production for a while, but I'm in production for a new television series with my son. That's all I can give you there. But right now, it's a lot of work and a lot of fun. What do you call it? But that is a new television series that when the time is right, everybody will know about it. And right now I'm on NDA, so I can't say anything more. But that is, we just started filming on the 14th of August. I do a ton of different voiceover work. I've got Serial Killers, which is coming out, video game and an animated series. What do you call it? And the list goes on. There's another couple of them that what do you call it? That people that my GHR crew are involved in doing some voice work for as well. Then I got another one where my daughter, my little one, she's 10, she's going to be 11. She's actually voicing a character with me, which is a lot of fun. So, there's always something going on. I have 2 new hot sauces coming out to go along with my line, and bringing back one of the old ones, the Sweet Heat Treat, which is a huge fan favorite. I released, what was it, last year, I believe it was, one of my tabletop book, my coffee table book, what do you call it, which is it's pretty much all positive thinking, just quotes. And the foreword was written by my buddy Charles Martinet, who does the voice for Mario and Luigi for Nintendo. So he did the the forward for me. It's just a lot of things, you know what I mean? And the most recent thing that should be launching soon, I don't know again when this is coming out, but for Suicide Awareness Month, which is starting in September, I manage an artist called Arizona Lindsay, and I set up with another friend of mine, DMC, the legendary DMC from Run DMC. He did a feature on a new track for her for Suicide Awareness Month. So I'm really excited about that launching. That should be, it's a great track. I've been in the studio a couple of times and, helping out, and it's just incredible. So, a lot of really cool things.
Great stuff. So I guess my last comment and question would be, if we kind of open the aperture a little bit more beyond kind of the immediate stuff you've got going, what should people be expecting when it comes to entertainment in the years ahead? What are some exciting things or developments or things to look out for? Or even if people are trying to get into the industry, what should people be pursuing? Any ideas?
Well, as far as the future, I mean, the whole idea of the show itself is the future of entertainment, right? So, or that's the theme of this show. So, I mean, I think that what the future holds is there's a lot going on now with and trending in virtual reality. I got to tell you, I was super stoked when I got I had the virtual headset, which was just insane. And I'm just blown away by it because again, I'm 46. I'm going to be 47 this week actually. And oh my God, now I'm getting old. I'm getting old, man. Anyway, so looking at that, I'm feeling like a lot of things are going to start going virtual. Where you might not be in, especially if things keep happening with the virus and stuff, who knows where that's going. But they have the ability now where you can have a headset on, never leave your living room, but be at a concert and see the people that you're at the concert with right next to you and actually see the band that's playing or the group that's there. You know what I mean? Like you will feel, you know what I mean? The being in that presence. So I think virtual reality might be where things are going, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I mean? Nothing will ever take the place of a true live event, but think of the possibilities. You know what I mean? Think of the possibilities. Something could be happening in Germany and, you could be in New York and, at the concert, still buying tickets, still doing this, that, and the next thing. Think about what Disney does on a regular basis. Everybody knows Disney. You love Disney, right? Maybe
Sure.
Not. Okay. When you go to Disney, what do? Certain areas of the park, they have certain scents that come out. That's, what I mean? That helps bring you, real into the moment and, it's, they could do the same thing, with this headset. They can just, at a concert, you can get that, like a, whatever scent would be there. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it just puts you in the place. I know when I played, no free ads, but The Walking Dead on, on that headset, I feel as though I'm there. You know what I mean? I feel as though I'm there. So, I got to believe they could do the same thing with that. I mean, hell, they were messing with it with Tupac Shakur not too long ago. I think they did it with Michael Jackson and a few other people, where they just had an actual, digital version of the person that they brought to life and they were up on stage performing. You know what I mean? Like, if they could do that, they could do a lot. Now, what do you call it? It was funny because this past week we talked about AI and all that jazz on Grindhouse, and it was, we have just a wide variety of thoughts about that in terms of where that's going. But it is the future. That's what's happening. And who knows what's going to take place? I think that a lot of people will have more opportunity, and it's just getting the word out there is what the issue is going to be. Opportunity and becoming something big are two completely different things. But once you get that opportunity, if you grab hold of it and ride it till the wheels fall off, then you'll find success. And I hope I'm making sense.
You're making a lot of sense. Brimstone, I'm so happy that you came on the show. Exciting to hear about all of the things you have done, the things you're still doing, and the inspiring things you want others to do. Thanks a lot.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate it. And anybody wants to check me out, please visit therealbrimstone.com or, you can go on, I'm on all social media, but on Instagram is where I, spend the most time. It's also at The Real Brimstone, verified. You'll know it's me. Anybody who, who writes to me, as long as you're respectful, happy to write back. Engage with me. I like to engage people on the posts. I'm here for you. Have questions, hit me up.
Perfect.